Superhumanize. Accelerated evolution.
Imagine a future where women not only defy aging, but redefine it entirely. Today, I'm thrilled to delve into the forefront of female biohacking and longevity with a true pioneer in the field, Kayla Barnes-Lentz. As the owner of LYV The Wellness Space and host of the Longevity Optimization podcast, Kayla has dedicated her life to advancing women's health through innovative evidence-based technologies, and treatments. Our conversation explores the cutting-edge strategies that empower women to take control of their health spans, offering insights that are both profound and practical. As a fellow biohacker passionate about optimizing human potential, I find immense joy in connecting with trailblazers like Kayla, who are not only pushing the boundaries of what's possible, but are also inspiring a new paradigm of wellness for women everywhere. Join us as we uncover the secrets to living not just longer, but better. Kayla, welcome to the Superhumanize podcast. What a pleasure to connect.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I am always intrigued and inspired and elated when I get to talk to others, especially other women who are also very deeply ingrained in the type of work that you do that also resonates very much with what I do. And what I really love about your work is how you seem to seamlessly integrate both the cutting edge science as well as ancient holistic wellness practices. And I truly believe that radiant health comes from this intersection, right, of these two worlds, if you so want to call them. And that's also something that my husband and I try to move forward in all of our endeavors that are mainly life science based. And you, as far as I have gotten the grasp of your work, Kayla, your work is, you focus not only on adding years to life, but adding life to these years and support people becoming the most vibrant they can be. And with that in mind, I'm curious. How do you see the current landscape of biohacking and health optimization evolving? And especially as we gain more access to all of these tools and also technologies like AI-driven health analytics and personalized medicine.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited for AI integration for a variety of reasons. One, I think that it'll really help to put your own health into your own hands, right? Because these chatbots you can train to start to understand your data, upload labs. And number one, hope it becomes more accessible, right? I co-own a longevity medicine clinic. I can essentially get any test. I have incredible providers that are able to then interpret those tests for me, but I know that it's not as accessible as we would like it to be. We're in a really interesting place where our current health status as a whole, actually, one sec, let me, sorry.
That's okay. And I'm just saying, I have a wonderful editor, James.
Good, James, yeah.
James, please cut out that part. And as you always do so beautifully, just seamlessly stitch it together. Thank you, James.
Thank you. Sorry, I swallowed the wrong way. Okay, restart, James. So, well, from where we're at this incredibly interesting time, right? Where the mass health status is incredibly poor and declining rapidly. We now know that for essentially the first time, our health and our lifespan is actually decreasing instead of getting longer, which is the ideal situation. And then we have this segment of people that are ultra optimizers, and we are trying to significantly extend our health and lifespan. So I think AI will make it, number one, more accessible. So you can start training these bots on your own data. And hopefully they'll get to a point that they can make really great recommendations. But from a longevity standpoint, I'm excited about the possibility to not only train your bot, but then run different potential outcomes with that bot. So let's say I input all my labs, the bot knows me really well, or the AI knows me really well. And then I say, okay, what 3 to 10 molecules can I take? And then what will those outcomes look like? Project 50, 60 different outcomes that could potentially happen in the next 50 years of my health, right? So I think it's going to be incredibly helpful. The amount of information that we have now at our fingertips in forms of wearables and it's real-time health data, we've never had that before, and it's incredibly exciting. That's another reason why I love these in-depth labs, right? I'm looking at thousands of biomarkers every single quarter. So I notice the most minute changes. And if I see something going in the wrong direction, I can immediately course correct, right? The problem with Western medicine and the approach that we've taken so far is we don't think about prevention. We don't necessarily think about course correction, right? Every single day, the habits that we choose to do are either going to promote health or promote disease. And that's how I think about everything that I do. But in traditional medicine, it's essentially you don't have a disease until one day when those biomarkers pass that threshold. You are then diagnosed with a chronic illness, right? We know it was clear that you were developing type 2 diabetes far before you were ever diagnosed with it. It was clear that you were developing mitochondrial dysfunction well before you were actually diagnosed with some sort of chronic illness. So the approach that I'm taking is to be as proactive as humanly possible by looking at these really comprehensive labs and data and then course correcting at minimum once a quarter. We're tweaking my supplements, my protocols based on the new research that's coming out all the time. And it's very exciting. And so I think the ability to extend the length of our life is not only the AI, but it's also the rejuvenation abilities that are coming down the line. So I spoke at a conference about a month ago in Gestad, and it really was a bringing together of some of the most forward-thinking minds, a lot of the academics studying longevity and life extension. And there were incredible companies that were presenting what they were working on. It's not yet widely available, some of it not available at all. It's only in trials. But for example, the possibility of taking new mitochondria, young, healthy mitochondria, and integrating those into older, more senescent cells and mitochondria. We know that mitochondria is so incredibly important for our health, and it's a pillar or hallmark of aging, mitochondrial dysfunction. I'm super excited about, number one, AI being able to optimize our health span, lifespan, and making it more widely available. And then to get to what we call, I think Aubrey de Grey coined the term, but the longevity escape velocity. When we get to a place that we can actually, in a really meaningful way, reverse and start to restore organs. Right now, we can slow down the biological age. We can really help to maintain health span. But I think we're going to get to a place in the next 10 to 20 years that we can really start to actually rejuvenate organs. And that's going to be a really exciting time.
Yes, I agree with you, Kayla. I am incredibly excited about all the things we already have access to, and whether it's traditional Chinese medicine, all these types of formulas that would not have been available to us even 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, unless we would have been very much tied within a specific community. Hundreds of years ago, only, if we're just speaking about TCM, only people at the who were royalty even were allowed to receive these formulas. And when we look at modern technology and AI, as you just described, I think the future is bright. I am excited for it. I also am a little bit daunted by the prospect of, and we know certain new treatments and technologies in the beginning, they can cost a lot of money, right? That's the nature of things. If we look back at what a cell phone used to cost, or what it used to cost to sit on an airplane and travel across a continent. But how do you think it, and I'm curious what your experience is. We have some, what do you call it, intersection and some of the things that we're passionate about and do. And for example, we also have a wellness clinic here on Montana Avenue. Amongst other, we offer the quote, which for you and I would be the usual, like the vitamin IVs, the glutathione, the NAD+. We also offer ketamine IV for mental health, because that goes hand in hand with all over health. I am very aware that not everybody can access these types of treatments or even the supplements that we offer. It's simply a matter of finances, often also education. And while I feel incredibly fortunate myself to be able to partake in this and also offer it, I also know that I'm not reaching as many people as I'd really love to reach with it. Basically, my question is, what are your thoughts on the future path for democratization and making all of these incredible things available for people who may not be able to have a quite significant part of their expendable income that they can put towards that.
Yeah, I think it's a really multifaceted approach here. We can look at it from a top-down approach, and I think we're in a better position now than we've ever been in terms of the noise being made about the dysfunction of our medical system, the atrocity of our food system. Two friends of mine, Dr. Casey Means and her brother Callie Means. Dr. Casey was a Stanford-educated physician, surgeon, and she left medicine, and her brother and her are now going to Washington. They're going on Rogan. They're really making a massive push to discuss the fact that when she was in Stanford Medical School, she didn't learn nutrition. She didn't learn how to actually heal people. And she's going on these massive platforms and saying that. So I think it's the awareness. We could have changes from a top down, from an administration standpoint, depending on how things go. We can't wait around for that, but that would make a substantial change, right? The financial incentives right now are completely backwards. There's financial incentive to see more patients, to prescribe more medications. There are no financial incentives of getting your patients better, getting your patients off drugs. So that entire system really needs to be, I believe, reconstructed completely. The entire thing needs to change. What insurance companies cover in terms of prevention needs to be changed. I'm excited to see the possibility of where that goes. Social media is a great way for people to really raise a big, loud noise about that. And I'm excited that it's happening. I see it all day on my Instagram feed, people just up in arms. And unfortunately, fortunately, when enough people do that, you have to listen. But with all that being said, there are so many practices that you can do right now, starting today, that are incredibly low cost or free that can start to upgrade your health. I think people are paralyzed by this overwhelm of information. Maybe they don't have the right amount of resources, and so therefore they're just not getting started. I think that's the wrong approach. I think making tiny changes every day, every week, as often as you can, will be a game changer. I know that the research all supports that the biggest things that you can do are the things we do every day, right? What do? We eat. So eating really high quality foods, growing your own food, if that's a possibility for you, it's more nutrient dense, it's fresher, trying to eliminate those ultra processed foods completely. We drink. So what's the quality of the water that you're drinking? Just if you take a look at, you're in Beverly Hills, you look at the Beverly Hills tap water database on EWG, and you see the level of contaminants that are in incredibly high and concerning levels, right? So you could consider getting something like a reverse osmosis countertop water filter, which costs a few $100s. And I think a lot of these companies too now offer a payment plan with, it's like a plug-in, Affirm or something, where you could do a payment plan. But I think a water filtration system, just countertop for your cooking, for your coffee, for your drinking water, is a couple $100s. The air that we breathe, we are actually breathing more than we're doing anything. So what's the quality of that air? Potentially making an investment into a high quality air purifier can be a game changer. But things that are free, moving your body, just walking, not being sedentary, not just sitting on the couch all day. We have to move. We have to push our bodies, our brains, our bodies love. If there was one longevity pill, it would probably be exercise, right? And we have to do it. It requires discipline and it requires consistency, because one workout might make you feel good that day, but it's not going to give you the outcome for health span, lifespan, body composition that you want. So you have to maintain these habits. Going to bed early. There's no cost to this. Going to bed early, getting high quality sleep, not staying up all night binging Netflix, not dousing yourself in blue light all evening. Just go to bed, make your room super dark, make it a little cool if you can, open a window and get really high quality sleep. These are the things that we do every day, right? And if we can optimize those areas first, you're going to be in 89%, 90% better off than everybody else just by doing these small little habits that can be low cost. You can do a cold shower essentially for free. If you have a shower, you can do cold. If you want to get some red light, but you can't afford a red light therapy, the sun at certain times of the day is 50% red light. And there are ways to really get some of these health optimization benefits without all of the technology that I have. I have a pulse PEMF behind me over there. I have a red light panel. I have the yellow lights, orange lights on the lamp. There's all this stuff that we could have, but we don't have to have. We can start making changes right away.
Yes, I love what you just shared, Kayla, and I couldn't agree more. I think the issue some people have is just, as you mentioned, to your point, the overwhelm with everything that's out there. And you truly do not need to go, quote, nuts, right? And some of my friends think I'm nuts, but then not so much so after the years pass by. But you truly, the foundation is the pillars that you spoke about. It is movement, it's what you eat, it's the quality of your sleep, it's the quality of your water, etc. To do a deeper dive though, I want to learn more about your personal day-to-day and as well as your offerings at your longevity clinic. Can you share a little more about that, please, Kayla?
Yeah. So I have full YouTubes on all my day-to-day routines. They're quite extensive, but I want to preface this with the fact that this is also my job, right? I own a longevity clinic. And so walking the walk is part of my job as a clinic owner. And also, obviously, I have a social presence. So it's also another part of my job. So the expectation is not for you to do a routine like this. You can pick and choose the pieces that make sense for you and that you can incorporate. And the best thing that you can do is always the practice that you're actually going to do, right? So if you can only meditate for 2 minutes per day, start there. But would you like a quick rundown of my day-to-day routine?
Please. Yes.
Okay. I get up naturally. I would say my day starts the night before. So I go to bed at 8:30. I eat my dinner. I stop eating by 5:30. So you want to stop eating about 3 hours prior to bed. Because if you're eating, we want to go back to the circadian biology, right? We weren't meant to be eating after the sun was down. If you do continue eating while the sun is set, then it's going to blunt your melatonin release, which we really need that to get high quality sleep. So stop eating at 5:30. I'm in bed by 8:30. I sleep in a Faraday cage, which is a bit unconventional. So this is a cage that is essentially able to block out the EMFs, electromagnetic field. So we have a Wi-Fi switch at night that turns off our Wi-Fi, but as here in LA, homes can be quite close. So just because our Wi-Fi is off doesn't necessarily mean that there's not Wi-Fi penetration from a house next door. So we sleep in a Faraday cage. Of course, we do an organic mattress with a grounding sheet, organic sheets, because mattresses and sheets, they can contain harmful contaminants like VOCs that then off-gas while you sleep. So if you can prioritize true rejuvenation while you sleep, so not only getting high quality sleep, but the sleep environment. Our room is also so dark, you can't see your hand in front of your face. So it's like pitch black. We've done blackout curtains. We've blocked out the skylights, so on and so forth. And so getting really high quality sleep. Also, before we go to bed, as soon as sun sets, which is super early now, it's 5:30 here in LA, the red lights all go on in the house. So as you see back there, it's a red-orange light. So it's always red light, even the television. So I'm not a big TV fan, but my husband likes it. But you can actually put a color filter onto the television so that it's red light, which is amazing. So we have the red light, we have going to bed, and then I wake up naturally somewhere around 5 or 5:30. I don't typically use an alarm clock unless I have something such as a flight. And the first thing I do, the sun's not out yet, I sit down on this PEMF machine behind me. So PEMF, I think of it as like grounding on steroids. So making contact with the earth, you get all these healing frequencies and benefits. It's great for HRV, can be good for recovery, like damaged muscle and tissue. And I also think of our bodies as a battery, right? So what is our energy level? What are we doing to drain the battery? And what are we doing to actually increase the health and the capacity of the battery? So I think of PEMF as a way to start increasing my cellular energy in the morning. I do that for about 20 minutes. I'll either do prayer or meditation or gratitude journaling while I do that. And then I head to the gym. The sun's not going to come out until a little later, but you always want to get sun in the eyes first thing in the morning. So then I go to my gym. My gym's about 9 minutes away. I have a split. So about 3 days per week, I'm doing cardiovascular exercises. One of those days a week, I'm doing VO2 max training, specific VO2 training. And then 3 days a week, sometimes 4, I'm doing deliberate strength training. A lot of compound lifts, which are great for women specifically to load the bone to improve our bone density, but also add on muscle mass. I think of muscle as your great longevity organ. So yeah, I head to the gym. I come back. Typically the sun is up by then. So I get some morning sun in the eyes. I take a quick walk around my neighborhood, which is great. We're up in the hills. So we get a lot of that zone 2 cardio just by walking outdoors. Then I do my sauna therapy. Our
Is
new
this
sauna.
what I see in the background outside?
Oh yeah, we actually have 2 saunas. So this one is this is a combination. So it can do traditional or infrared. So that's our outdoor sauna. Then behind that, we actually have a cold plunge, that black one right there. But then we have another sauna that we just got. I love it because it combines a sauna therapy with red light therapy. So there's actual red light therapy panels built into the sauna. It's also the lowest VOC sauna on the market. Amazingly, a lot of saunas have these VOCs that will off gas because they use wood glues, plywood, varnishes. And
Which
so that's
brand did you get? Which brand is it?
So it's Heavenly Heat. They have been around for about 30 years. They originally started making saunas for people with chemical sensitivities. So that's why they weren't using the wood glues, the varnishes, the plywoods. But if you think about it just logically, to me, all saunas should be doing that. You should not be adding toxins to your body while trying to detox, right? These saunas also have the lowest EMFs on the market because oftentimes if you're sitting in an infrared sauna, then your bench, the EMFs are actually penetrating the body because of the distance. And these saunas they have a Faraday cage built in. So it's actually blocking the EMFs. So it's the best one. I've done so much research, as you probably have been. I've been in this industry for over 10 years, maybe even closer to 15. So I've tried all the brands, done all the things, have all the products. Yeah, that's my favorite right now. So I'll do sauna therapy.
How long do you do that for? Do you do it every day or do you?
I do it 5 times per week for about 20 minutes per session.
What's your preferred temperature setting?
It depends we know that traditional saunas have the most research behind them, right? So this sauna behind me can get up to 190 or so. And I love that a couple times a week. But I also really enjoy, and I think we're going to see more literature come out about the infrared sauna because I like that too because I get the red light at the same time. So the sauna has red light. It also has a grounding port. So you can actually put a grounding mat inside and do your sauna all at the same time. And because my routine is so extensive, I'm always trying to find ways to really stack the therapies to have more time in my day. So I go between, and then the infrared sauna gets up to about 165. So do my sauna therapy, then I'll take a shower. I do a lot of my biometrics once my heart rate has decreased, normalized. So I'll do my body composition as soon as I get out of the shower. It's right in my bathroom. That's weight and muscle mass, bone density, fat mass, all of that. And then I do my measurements once a week. I do grip strength. I do a spirometer for lung health. And then I do my blood pressure. So do my measurements. I make my breakfast. And that's really essentially the Mediterranean diet. Lots of organic plants. I actually get this CSA delivered that's regenerative. So you want to try to get the highest quality food possible. If it's regeneratively grown, the nutrient status is going to be much better. And also, if you shop at farmers markets, it's more fresh or it's more recently picked because we know that the longer that the fruit or vegetable is picked and the longer it takes to get to you, it's losing nutrients as it goes. So it's really important to try to shop locally, eat seasonally. I make my breakfast. I take my morning supplement stack. And then I start my first bout of work, typically. I try to block my working sessions in about 90-minute segments. And I incorporate a lot of other biohacking modalities into my day. So I do a NanoV, it's an amazing device that helps to reduce oxidative stress, improve protein folding. But I just put the nasal cannula in while I'm working all day. So it's getting a great therapy while not having to do much. My office is optimized for health. So I don't have any junk light. As you see, our home has a lot of skylights. So we have essentially natural light all day long, which I love because you don't want that LED, those junk lights. I have a great air filtration in my office. So I'm breathing high quality air. I have some EMF mitigation devices in there, just try to optimize my environment. I do a red light, a medical grade laser that I actually put on my neck. And I place the nodes right on these primary blood vessels, and it helps to increase blood to the brain. It just makes me feel great and improves my energy. I also am currently doing a hair protocol. So I have a red light hair mask that I'm doing. I can't wait to see the results of that. But I incorporate these practices while I'm at my desk. I also have a biohacking chair, I would call it. It's an Anthros chair. It was developed by doctors of physical therapy. So they were creating devices for disabled individuals. And then they thought, why don't we just make the best posture office chair possible? So have my office set up, and then I take breaks and do walks all throughout the day. So unless I have to be seated for a podcast or for some reason, I take my calls on walks outdoors in nature. I'm getting my steps in. I get at least 10,000 steps per day, but I aim for more like 15 or 20,000. I have a walking pad right there too. I stopped doing the walking pad with the desk because I found that my posture while typing and trying to walk seemed to be getting compromised. So I'm getting ready to do an entire posture optimization protocol. I'm going to be working with a couple of experts here in LA, and I'll release that on YouTube. But now I just do it if I'm on a call. I'll do the walking pad if I can't get outside or for some different reason. I also do a cold plunge midday. So that for me is like an extra energy burst. It's natural energy, increases your dopamine, improves my focus, really gives me a big second win to get through the rest of my work. And I only do that in the follicular phase though, through ovulation. And I also keep it around 55 degrees. I found that when I was doing the much colder temperatures, it wasn't as beneficial for my hormones. So I started to increase the temperature a bit. I think that is better for women, at least based on what me and my team have seen, and not doing it as often in the luteal phase or the second half of the cycle, because I would like my progesterone to rise naturally. That's my midday routine. And then evening routine, I make all of our meals at home. I maybe eat out, and we were talking about Air One. I can't even find a restaurant anymore in LA. There used to be one. Then I found out they were using seed oils. So that's off the table. So we eat out extremely rarely, maybe once or twice a year, but I make every meal, breakfast and dinner at home. And my husband and I have dinner tonight or together every evening, which I love. But I start prepping dinner around 4 o'clock. It's always some sort of high quality protein, lots of dark leafy greens, olive oil, sometimes some nuts and seeds, with sometimes a smart carb, something like a sweet potato or a yam. I don't have that every day. I have it a few times a week. And a wild caught salmon or a great fatty fish. Sometimes I do sardines. I like to mix it up because we know that variety is also really good for the gut microbiome.
With regard to the high quality fish, even if one is able to choose the best quality wild caught, how do you deal with the potential side effects of, let's say, microplastics or heavy metals? Are you on a daily, regular, or maybe a few times a year prevention or chelation detox for that?
Yeah, I certainly prioritize detoxification. So I'm doing plasmapheresis, which is great for that. I
Tell
do
me
a
more
total.
about that.
Yeah, real quick too. So I do a total tox burden every quarter. This combines environmental toxins, heavy metals, molds, and mycotoxins. So I see right away if my burdens are increasing, and then I take action. So plasmapheresis, or therapeutic plasma exchange, is essentially removing your plasma, and then it can regenerate in about 24 to 48 hours, but it can remove a lot of those pollutants and toxins in the bloodstream. People have been finding a great benefit too for things like autoimmune conditions to help remove some of those antibodies. I also do EBU. So it's essentially ultra high dose IV ozone. We offer that at my clinic as well, with standard IV ozone and high dose ozone, and then EBU, but that also promotes detoxification. I think chelation is a little bit difficult on the body. I think there's a time and a place for it. I think if your toxic burden is incredibly high, it can be very beneficial. But because I have such a good pulse on my toxic burden, I will do things like extended fast once a year. I will do binders before the sauna. It's not every time that I do the sauna, but if I see any changes, I'll incorporate more binders in with my sauna sessions. I try to live an incredibly low tox lifestyle. To address your question about the fish, it's something that's on my mind a lot. So yes, ideally we have these wild caught fish, right? They're incredible for our health. Salmon's loaded with omega-3s, but we now know that the ocean is polluted with these heavy metals, mycotoxins. The bigger the fish, something like a tuna, can be a lot higher in heavy metals. So as much as I am opposed to the idea of farmed fish, I think that there are a few companies that are starting to do it the right way, and they're testing for things like microplastics. So the problem with farmed fish is that they're typically in this incredibly small space relative to the number of fish. They're then defecating and the feces, and is essentially a toxic mess in with these farmed fish. But if you can do it the right way and give the fish plenty of space and it's a clean water source and they're being fed the right diet, there's a couple companies out there called one Seatopia, and they're doing lab testing for microplastics and different heavy metals. So truthfully, I think that might be the way of the future, because we are just being really plagued by this incredibly high toxic burden in every area, from our food, our air, our water, our clothes. I read some data saying that about 5% of the brain is plastic now, which is incredibly concerning. I took one of the world's first microplastic tests probably 6 months ago, and my levels are really low, but they're not nothing. And it's impossible, right? I'm doing all the things. I think at minimum, absolutely do not drink out of plastic water bottles. That's a massive source.
That's so important. I'm so glad you're pointing that out, Kayla, because convenience sake, or it's everywhere, people grab it. And I think what most people are not, I don't want to be, what do you say? Act as if I know what most people know or don't know, but I think I used to be amongst those people who had no idea that the production, the storage, the transport, the temperatures that these plastic bottle drinks, and whether it's water or some kind of a soda or juice, and what leaches into what you then drink and put in your body, it's just such a high risk. I can count the amount of times I drink out of a plastic bottle. It's probably, if once a year or twice a year, if I'm on a long haul flight and for some reason I may have forgotten my own container, or what's available is just that on the plane. But that we have completely eliminated that, especially also for us women with,
they're endocrine disruptors, and they actually mimic estrogen, these plastics. So it's incredibly harmful to young girls. It's incredibly harmful to all women. It's incredibly harmful to everyone. There's now been microplastics and these nanoplastics found in every single organ, from the brain to the testes to the placenta, the ovaries, everywhere. And it's only a matter of time until we see these bioaccumulating or accumulating in our organs over time. So first step is to cease plastic use as frequently and as often as possible. No plastic water bottles, no, even the cups, those cups that have the plastic lining, but they look like a paper cup, but also not acceptable.
At all the coffee shops or whatnot. I love a coffee on the go as much as anyone. However, what you just described, the lining of these cups, and then of course you have hot drinks poured into them. But if you're partial to that, have your own cup. And another thing is also, now not to put all the horrors of the world into the brains of our listeners, but coffee especially, coffee drives everything that comes with it deeper into our system. That's why a lot of biohackers love to take their superfoods, mushrooms or whatnot with it. But just imagine you're drinking one of these, not going to name any brands, but you're drinking one of these big brand coffees that are, first of all, not organic. And even if they're organic, are they tested for mold? Just food for thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do have coffee. I limit it to about 1 cup per day. I make it at home. It's in glass. I actually had to work
brand
really.
do you use?
It's called Holistic Coffee Roasters. It's biodynamic. They send me all their lab tests as they come out, and they actually continue. I obviously have a relationship with them now because I like to develop relationships with anyone that I'm purchasing something from. I want to know the integrity of the owner. I want to know how they're making it, and I want to be updated on a consistent basis about what the lab testing says. I first found it at Erewhon. It's great, but now I just buy it direct from them. So love that. But also then I had to go out of my way to find like a glass coffee maker, because I didn't want to be having it heating up in plastic. It's a whole thing. Let's not be too overwhelming here, but a great option is just the pour over coffees as well, because then it's in glass with a stainless steel basket, and you're just using hot water versus running all of this hot water through a traditional coffee maker and then catching those microplastics on the way.
And I think this is so important because most of us do drink, let's say, coffee multiple times a day. I'm not at 1 cup yet. I usually have 2 cups, 1 in the morning and then maybe 1 in the afternoon if needed. But think about, if I think back at how I used to function, or rather not function, and then mask the lack of energy by constantly drinking caffeinated drinks, including coffee. But just imagine how often, if you are a coffee drinker, if it's your habit or what you love to do, how often you actually consume that drink. And if you have one of the traditional coffee makers and but it has all these plasticky parts over a lifetime, over the course of a year, what do you expose yourself to?
Yeah, those pod things are the worst. I've never had that, but think about it. You're putting a plastic pod into a coffee maker, heating it up, running your beverage. That's a total disaster. So those pods, I do not endorse at all. One quick thing I forgot to mention on my midday routine, because it does change, but I also own a medical grade hyperbaric oxygen chamber. So I'm currently doing a protocol of 40 sessions, which I'm a little over halfway through. I'm doing them 1 hour per day, 5 times per week. So in the midday, I jump in the chamber. I'll get caught up on emails. I'll reply to text messages, whatever. So I do try to also do work while doing the chamber, but that's another fun thing. And hyperbaric, I actually first learned about hyperbaric when I was studying under Dr. Daniel Amen and did his brain health practitioner courses and realized how incredible it was for improving blood flow to the brain. New studies are coming out showing that hyperbaric oxygen can actually lengthen telomeres, which is the end caps of our DNA. Some people determine them as a measurement of aging as well. Lots of great benefits there.
Outstanding. And so we went all the way through the home cooked meals that you prepared for you and your husband. So I love having this glimpse into your day, Kayla. And of course, we can learn much more about it on your YouTube channel. With regard to your clinic, what are your offerings there? What are some of the pillars?
Yeah, the pillar is personalization, right? This is bio-individual medicine. This is functional integrative medicine. We do a really intentional job of hiring people that know how to practice curative medicine, meaning how to actually cure people and not just apply some sort of algorithm or pharmaceutical to them. So we do all the testing possible. I'll give you an example. We have something called executive health, and within an executive health program, you get a once yearly, we call it executive physical, where you're doing a full body MRI. And I do all of this myself, of course. I do it more frequently, actually, but we do the full body MRI. We do the CTA, the CT angiogram with a clearly soft plaque analysis. So in my opinion, this is the gold standard for cardiovascular health. It actually uses AI to see plaques in the arteries that would otherwise be undetectable by the human eye in most cases. We do a DEXA scan. We do a liquid biopsy, which will pre-screen for cancer cells. I love that.
Which technology do you use there, or which?
We use the GRAIL cancer screening. So I think liquid biopsies are going to be really incredible. They are now, but I think they'll become more popular in the future because we know that the best, if very unfortunately you were to get cancer, catching it early is the best chance that you have. We know the outcomes are significantly better. Doing liquid biopsies are a part of that. We have what we call a longevity lab panel. It's about 150 biomarkers. It's looking at really in-depth cardiovascular markers, not just HDL, LDL, and triglycerides. It's looking at the size and the shape of the actual particles. It's looking at the inflammation within the arteries. Lab markers like a TMAO, which are newer markers known to potentially be important for cardiovascular health. We look at all the hormones for both men and women. Our lab panels are slightly different if you're a woman or a man, of course. So we want to look at slightly different markers. We look at, of course, all the inflammation markers. We look at nutrient status. So we do something called a Nutri-Eval. And that's a lab test that's going to give your nutrient status. So I'm not a big fan of just guessing what supplements we should be taking. I like to actually test what supplements I need, and then we can target that approach to what your body and your data is telling us that we need. We do genetic testing. So the entire protocol and the way that we look at individuals is based on what is your genetic predispositions. Are you genetically prone to cardiovascular disease? And your family history. Do you have a family history of cardiovascular disease? We know it's the number one killer. So our approach might be a little bit more aggressive if you are genetically predisposed to that or have a strong family history. But genetics only need to be done one time in a lifetime. Really, I've done probably 6, 7, maybe 8 different genetic tests. They all say the same thing. It's just I enjoy seeing the different interpretations of them. So genetics play a big role. Also, that will help us understand, do you have MTHFR? Do you need to be on methylated B vitamins? It helps to guide what we recommend for you to do. Same thing with, are your detoxification pathways impaired? Then we might be focusing more on detox through your yearly protocol. So that's a really big one. We do the total toxic burden, which again is combining those multiple labs to see what your total toxic burden is. I can tell if someone drinks out of water bottles immediately. Their BPA is going to be through the roof. We can see if someone's using products with different parabens, phthalates, all of that. It's immediately obvious because I can tell if they're showering in tap water and drinking tap water almost immediately. It's a really incredible test to just understand your toxic load. And then based on all of this data, let me think if we do anything else. And then we have some sub-tests, like if you are clinically presenting any symptoms, we can look at things like Lyme disease. We can look at things like other unique viruses, things of that nature that may be a past exposure that you're not aware of, but it's causing symptoms. And of course, we do a gut test. So we do a GI map. I think the gut is the foundation of health. Improve your gut. You can see hormones improve, skin health improve. Most of our serotonin is housed in our gut, which is our happiness chemical. So gut testing is incredibly important, and people typically feel so much different, so much better once we really optimize their gut health. So I think that's the majority of what we're looking at from an imaging standpoint and a lab standpoint. And then, some individuals may require additional testing just based on symptoms or desires. So that's about that. And then so we'll repeat that twice to see progress and further continue to understand the baseline, which I think is really important because with more frequent testing, you can see what's working, what's not, and it also holds people more accountable.
Yes, I love that, Kayla. I think we need more clinics and initiatives like yours. And I'm also hopeful that we will see some changes also in the healthcare landscape so it doesn't stay a sickness management actually business, what it truly is. And so people can actually take steps, be empowered to stay healthy for a long time. Even from a fiscal standpoint, if you just want to look at the economics of it, it makes much more sense to have a healthy population. People that don't suffer from diseases for decades of their life, the emotional, personal toll aside, but the financial burden on the entire system. It's just ridiculous when it's not necessary.
Yeah. I totally agree.
And with that being said, somebody like yourself is in a unique position. I also find myself in a unique position. A lot of my peers with this increasing accessibility of biohacking tools and information, right? There are so many paths we can walk down, so many things we can try. How do you see the balance between personal, let's call it experimentation, and the need for regulation? It's often, I feel, especially when I'm in conversation with people who this is what their life really is about, I feel like there is a fine line we walk in the biohacking community between innovation and also safety. So I'm particularly interested in your perspective on how biohackers can self-regulate while also pushing the boundaries of what is possible with human health, with the human experience.
Yeah, I think that if you're in a position to be doing biohacking, then you're probably in a position to find an incredible doctor and work with them closely. I have a medical team. I have a primary doctor, a PA. My clinic has a team of nurses. So I have an entire team reviewing what I'm doing and the protocols that I'm doing. There's also some things that I've said no to because I just turned 34 about 2 weeks ago. I haven't had children yet. So I'm not doing things like, let's say, gene therapy at this point. I think it could be really helpful years down the line, but right now, not so much. So I would encourage people to interview doctors, find one that aligns with your philosophy. You have to find someone very special and unique to be forward thinking, to be open to all of these different interesting prescriptions or peptides or therapies. And they also need to be knowledgeable about them so they can best advise you whether or not you should be doing them. I think it depends on the level of biohacking that you're doing. I think a lot of things are relatively safe. Of course, you still probably want to run it past your doctor, but things like red light therapy and cold showers, not a big deal. But if you get into the world of like peptides or hormone management or hyperbaric oxygen, it's something that you do want to work with the doctor on because they're you need to be aware of the potential risks, and then you guys can decide together whether or not that's a good decision for yourself. But in terms of regulation, I don't like the idea of anyone regulating what we can and can't do with our bodies. I find that very concerning. I think that as an example, the FDA tried to take away peptides. Like they took a bunch of them off the market not too long ago. And by a miracle, I think we have most of them back now. But if they would have just taken them off the market, show me the data that we're not supposed to have them. The safety profile based on the research I've done, as long as you're getting it from a reputable source, I would never take peptides, for example, off of a website that says not for human consumption. We get all of our peptides compounded in an FDA-approved facility, and they're incredibly regulated, and it's incredibly important that they're putting out high-quality products. So you have to also check the source, but show me the evidence that peptides are more concerning than pharmaceuticals that are already approved and in use with many individuals. Like the safety profile of peptides are quite good. So yeah, we have them back, but I definitely don't like the idea that at any given moment, a government agency can just yank part of your plan of care.
Agreed 100%, Kayla. And I'm also a big believer in biological freedom. I am not comfortable with having any, I don't know, organizations, government telling me what I can and what I cannot do with my body. That being said, I still like to ponder on a lot of these questions that the rapid advancements in science that they throw up, whether it's genetic modification and CRISPR technology, whether any kind of intervention that we can use to not just prevent or heal, but actually also to advance, to extend longevity, optimize performance. I am all for that. And it also brings up concerns in my mind how we address the equity of that, especially moving forward, and especially looking at what we also see right now with such a divide between what you can call the haves and have-nots, right? So it throws up in my mind the question also, what kind of governments or policies will we have so it does not divide our societies further? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said, I think that we're in the best position that we have been thus far. How you voted politically, I don't want to get into that. But I interviewed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. a year and a half ago on my podcast, and I came to know him a little bit personally. And at that time, he was a presidential candidate. And I've never heard of a presidential candidate talking about mitochondria ever in my life. This is amazing. And he has the background in litigating companies like Monsanto. He has the experience in doing that. And I know that there is a lot of kind of worry about potentially his role, but based on what I've seen, I'm very excited because I think he is one of the only individuals that could go ahead and restructure Big Pharma. Quite funny, but I've heard Big Pharma is having a fire meetings right now. Stocks are like plummeting because we don't know what's going to happen with them. And we need pharmaceuticals. There's nothing wrong with pharmaceuticals. It's just the overprescription of pharmaceuticals, I think, which is the problem. But the same thing with our food system. I believe we have about 80,000 different, we can call them toxic substances being introduced to our food system and personal care products that have not been tested for safety. I mean, we have to have better regulations. Other countries like Europe have much better and much stricter regulations on what goes into food products, what goes into personal care products. And if we can just start to move the needle on the way that we structure this whole health system, change the incentives, we're going to be in a much better spot because it's not even fair. Like people have to be full-time researchers now just to figure out what to have, what not to have. I didn't just go from, this has been a slow build over the course of, like I said, a decade. And I own a business in the space. And it's still like all the time, there's something new introduced. You have to figure out, is that something I want to do or not? So you have to have a lot of discretion as well. So I try not to I do get excited about all new biohacking therapies, and I've done many of them. I've also done stem cells, so on and so forth. But there's some that are, for me right now at the stage of life I'm in, are just a little bit too much. And it's not, when I weigh, what is the risk? What is the benefit? And then I make an informed decision.
Yes, and I love your approach, Kayla. There are so many other things I'd like to go into detail with you, but I know we're running out of time. So for people who would like to learn more about you, all your offerings, and who might want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, my website is kaylabarnes.com. My Instagram is also at Kayla Barnes. All my social handles are typically the same. On my YouTube, I just started posting long form content, which I'm really excited about. And I actually created this female only membership too. I felt like it was really lacking for a place for women to come together that are in the space that can get for women by women information, and also have a community of like-minded individuals to support each other, share stories, share things that is working for them. I also have coursework in there. So if you're interested, I really am loving spending time in that space right now.
Outstanding, Kayla. We'll make sure to put all of that in the show notes. It's really been a pleasure to take a walk inside your brain and learn more about what you do and what you offer. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.